One of my favorite scriptures, Tracy, is the one found in the book of Isaiah. It's chapter 43, and it's verses 18 and just the beginning of 19. And it's like a transition verse. And it's, don't dwell on the past, but be alert and be present, for I'm about to do a new thing.
So good. Yeah.
And I remember going through a big, huge transition in my life. I mean, it was one of those things that didn't completely take the wind out of me because I knew it was coming, but yet I think it caused me to breathe differently.
Yeah.
Because I knew something was getting ready to change. I felt it in the atmosphere. I saw things around me already starting to change. But I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, when it was going to happen.
That unknown will take your breath away.
It completely does.
Yeah.
It completely does. And I remember going away by myself, which was the first time that I had ever done that. And so I really do encourage all of us to take that time, to get away and find space to breathe, create new space to breathe, even create a new environment, new surroundings. I think it's so necessary now. We're in a season where it's not just important to do that. I believe that it's necessary to do that. But that's
turn off the phones.
Turn off anything.
Media.
All the distractions.
Yeah. Turn off our video.
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah.
Turn everything off.
Yeah.
And silence is pretty deafening.
Yes.
When you sit in silence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what you don't hear.
Yeah.
And what you can hear. And I remember specifically going away going, okay, God, I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your voice this weekend. And this is what I need. I need clarity. I need direction. I need like a yes and another yes and another yes. I like to look for confirmations just to make sure.
Yeah.
And I was reading a book, and that scripture was in that book, and it so defined the season that I was in transition. And just like you were talking about the scripture, that when you asked for a scripture and God gave you that scripture, and how 27 years now it looks differently. The thing that I held on to was that I'm about to do a new thing. And it was just confirming that this wasn't this messy stuff, this uncomfortable place that I was in, there was purpose in it.
Yeah.
Because God was getting ready to do a new thing. And I think now I've carried that verse with me, and I got that verse in 2004. So it's been 15 years now.
Wow.
And what I can see is that verse right now, it's not about the dwelling on the past. It's not even about that new thing, because I'm in a new place now that I trust him with that. My thing is just to be present.
Yeah.
And be alert.
And that's a challenge. I know we've alluded to talking about the Enneagram and personality types, and your orientation to time. Like, I don't know if everybody knows that, but some people are, that was revelatory to me when I realized that some people are very past oriented, some people are present, and then others are future oriented.
Yes.
And I'm a future oriented, so I'm always looking to what's next, and really have a hard time just living in the present. But there's so much right there, right in front of you, right where you are. So I think it's a lot, common nature to look, either be somebody who dwells on the past or is really looking for that what's next, but what's here and now and right in front of you.
Yeah. I think that's in the season of the women that I'm working with and speaking to, that I'm surrounded by right now. I really believe that we're in that season, and maybe we always should be in that season, but there's like an awakening to really stop and pause and know that there's purpose in those times where you're not thinking ahead. Sometimes I know that I'm always thinking ahead. Even when I'm planning one, I'm thinking about the next thing. And from what I've learned is the unhealthy part of me is covering up, keeping busy so I don't have to be still and have some of those maybe wounds or those uncomfortable times of just sitting and being still and not doing anything, not performing or not creating. And it's so important to just sit and embrace those things and not numb.
Right.
We live in a society right now where we are numbing. And I'm not talking just about prescriptions, and I'm all for doctors if there's imbalances and things like that. But the scary thing about numbing is that you not only numb the things that hurt, you're numbing the joy.
You know, when I had a couple of times throughout the years when I've suffered, you know, had been in a really bad depression time, twice I've gone on medication for a short duration, an antidepressant. And, you know, while that helped tremendously to balance me, so I'm not someone who says you shouldn't.
And I've been on that. You know, I've been on medication as well, too.
So that, but what bothered me about it, I was glad to be stabilized.
Yes.
But what bothered me about that is that I couldn't access that, the high or that joy of just, you know, of just emotion, that full range of life and emotion. And so, you know, that I knew I didn't want that to go on forever. And really what that was doing, really for me, and this is just for me because I would not want to speak to anybody's particular situation. Every single person's situation is unique and different. I want to make that perfectly clear.
Yes.
For me, medication was helpful for a very short time, but in that time, you know, I did some heavy counseling and some real deep heart stuff, you know, and like you said, it's when you're quiet and you're still, you know, you have to hear, you know, you can, if you feel more of those things that you normally just want to stuff down. And you know, for me, it was always just doing the next thing and numbing that way, to slow down, take a step back and allow myself to really feel those things. It took a while, like, you know, I mean, it took a while of being in counseling before I could even let myself really feel. But that was, you know, it was just an example of that, you know, the highs and the lows. I mean, you want the goal is to feel all of life and to not be afraid of those, you know, the lows and the highs, and to be able to, you know, find a way with God's help to get through all of them.
Yes.